who went to hell, who would not heed the call of God during his life, would not love his brother Lazarus. And he finds himself, one day he died and wakes up in hell. And he says, Father Abraham, send Lazarus to me. Send him that he might dip his finger in a glass of water and just cool my tongue for a moment. And what does Abraham say? He say, I'm on the way? No. Does he say you're only there for a little while in purgatory and then you'll get out? No. Does he say you're going to be reincarnated and come back as something else? No. He says, friend, you had your good things while you were on earth. You wasted those good things. He says, now you're getting what you deserve. He says, and there's a chasm. There's a gulf. And it's permanent and it's fixed between you and between us. We can't cross to you. You can't cross to us. I can't send Lazarus to you. You're stuck. You're there. You're in hell for eternity. You're awaiting the final judgment where you're going to be thrown into the lake of fire. When you've been in hell, friend, for 10 billion years, you won't be 1 second closer to being done than when you first started. You're stuck. And so perhaps maybe when you call upon God then, if you don't call in this life, He won't hear. He won't hear. Today's the day. If you feel any guilt, any shame, any remorse, listen, friends. Listen while your conscience is still tender. Don't go and sear your conscience. Don't continue to sin against God and He turn you over and abandon you. Don't do this. Don't murder your baby this morning. Turn to Christ that you might live. This is a place of death. This is a place of hell and death. Christ came to give life and to give it abundantly. Don't do this. Turn to Christ while you still have breath in your lungs. Because He says, if you wait, when you call upon me, I won't answer. You'll seek me diligently, but will not find me. Why? Because they hated knowledge, and they did not choose the fear of the Lord, would have none of my counsel, and despised all my reproof. They hated knowledge. What is knowledge? What is wisdom? The fear of the Lord. Friends, you must fear God. That's the problem. There's no fear of God in the land. People think that they can be God. They elevate themselves to God, and we think we can bring God down to our level and make Him a human. God is not like you and I, friends. His thoughts are higher. His ways are higher. He's the living, self-existent God. You must fear Him. He's the consuming fire. You must be wise and turn to Him. If you feared Him, I wouldn't have to argue with you about abortion, about your sin anymore. You would know. He says, therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way and have their fill of their own devices. Again, isn't that interesting? God says, you want your sin rather than me. It says, okay, you will have it. You will have it. This is what Romans 1 talks about. That men and women, rather than worshiping God, worship created things, worship themselves, and God gave them over. Let me read to you from Romans chapter 1 here what it says. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. Friends, you are here this morning. You know the truth about God, and you're pushing it down. Because you want you want to have sex without any consequences. You want to keep your money in your wallet or your pocketbook. You want your comforts and your conveniences. You know it's wrong to murder your baby, but you suppress that truth because of a love of sin, a love of your idols. And it brings about the wrath of God. It brings about the wrath of God. He says, for what can be known about God is plain to them. God has not hidden Himself from you this morning, friends. It's plain, it's obvious. Because God has shown it to them. For His invisible attributes, God's eternal power and His divine nature have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. Anybody can look at creation and see and know there's a creator. You're without excuse. And it says, for although they knew God, and I'm not just talking about any God, I'm talking about the one true God. This is what the Bible says. You know God. You know the truth about him. And yet you push it down and you run after your sin. You're without excuse. It says, for although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him. That is, you didn't worship him. And you didn't thank him for the good gifts that you have. But rather you worship yourself. You worship money. You worship convenience. You worship comfort. You worship sex. You worship all the idols that are out there. Man's opinion. Rather than worshiping God and giving him thanks, it says they became futile in their thinking and their foolish hearts were darkened. God will darken your heart. He will give you over to your foolishness. This could be happening to you this morning, friend. There's nothing more important than your soul. No amount of money, no amount of comfort, no amount of convenience is more important than your soul. Jesus said, what does it profit you if you gain the whole world but lose your soul? What can you give in exchange for your soul? Nothing. And the Bible tells us, Jesus said, he said, those who try to save this life, they will lose it. That's what you're doing. You're trying to save this life. You're living for yourself and the things of this world. And God says you will lose it all. Just as that man who stored all his possessions away, he lost it all. You will too. You will too. Well, he says those who are willing to lose this life, man, would you come speak?